Hi, this is Jamie Schaffnett, and I am ready for my facilitation video, and I chose to do mine on the data to instruction piece. You'll have to forgive me, it's kind of noisy in the background. We're doing a little construction here today. Okay, so I would have already done the activating prior knowledge and some of the engaging experiences to get us started. So now we're going to dive into the data to instruction. And our targets for doing this section today are that so that you understand how to access, interpret, and begin to apply status data. That you can identify goal area strengths and needs so that you can flexibly group your students, and then also that you can connect groups of students to skills. So first, what I would like for you to do is access your teacher class report, which is found in your reports portfolio on pages 2 and 3. Okay, once you're there, I'd like for you to circle or highlight some critical data points. So look at that report. What are some things that you feel are important? Just circle them or highlight them, and then also put question marks next to data points that maybe you aren't sure of and you need some clarification on. And we kind of want you to determine, what do you think that the purpose of this report is? Okay, so teachers would do that. Now that you have had an opportunity to do that, I'd like for you to talk to the people in next to you and just kind of share out as a group some areas that you thought were important and some areas that you thought needed some clarification. Okay, so we would discuss that. All right, so yeah, you guys talked about it. The purpose of this report is it displays student status data. It displays the teacher's class data for the current testing term by RIT score. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at a sample report. This is the one that you have in your workbook as well. First, we want to look at the RIT scores. How do these compare? We have the mean RIT score, and then we have the norm grade level mean RIT. The mean RIT score would be the average RIT score and how our students in this class performed, and they performed at a 201.7. The norm grade level mean RIT is the NWEA research across thousands and thousands of students across the country, and based on this, how they did, this is where they would score. It would be a 207.1. Okay, so we can tell that our class, this 5th grade reading class, is performing a little below, about 5 or 6 points below where we would kind of like them to be, or where we see other students performing at this time of year. Okay, so then we want to look at how does the mean RIT of each goal area compare to the class mean RIT. So here again is our class mean RIT, which was found up here, 201.7. Down here it's kind of broken down, 201. The overall is 201, so our class performed. But then we can look down here at each goal area. So we have literature, which is found right here, informational text, and foundational skills and vocabulary. Okay, so we can kind of see where they correlate. 201, 201, so that one's pretty average for where our class performs. And informational text was a 204, so that's actually a little bit above where our class average was. And then 198 is a little bit below where our class average was. So we kind of look and notice that our lowest score or goal area is foundational skills and vocabulary. Okay, so then we also want to look at which goal area has the highest standard deviation, and that would be, looking at this column, we can see which one has the highest, and that when we look at literature, we have an 18.1, informational text is 12.5, and foundational skills is 10.0. So we can see that 18.1 is our highest standard deviation, which means we have the broadest range of variation. We have some kind of maybe some super low kids in the area of literature and some super high kids. So our range that we're trying to meet in the area of literature is pretty broad. So this, we want to kind of look at that and how will this information impact planning and instruction, and we can tell that foundational skills and vocabulary are an area that we're going to definitely want to look at, and also literature. In just that, we're going to want to group our students a little bit differently in the area of literature so that we can meet their needs. All right, so when you look at this next report, this is kind of breaking each individual student out, and we want to look at which score a student scored within each percentile range. So if we look at our low students, we kind of consider less than 21%. We look at our percentile, less than 21%, we have these students. Then average, 21 to 40%. low average, and then average 41 to 60, high 61 to 80th percentile, and then above would be 80th percentile. Okay, so you can kind of see where they scored. When we look at our norms too, and we think that our typical performance norms for this grade level in the fall is 207.1. So we can kind of look right in here in this area. This is kind of our average or norm based on how the other fifth graders across the nation are doing. Second grade level, or 2 grade levels below from norms, is 189.9. So that's kind of where we get the low. And then the proficiency benchmark indicator for Kentucky is 215. So in order for them to be proficient, we want them to be at about a 215. So that would be kind of these students right in here. Okay, so how does this information impact our planning and instruction? We kind of can see where we have some areas that we need to focus on. Okay, we talked about standard deviation a little bit, and just to clarify, larger standard deviation indicates more academic diversity, and we talked about that a little bit. So here is a standard deviation of 21. You can see we have some students down here in the RIT score of 181 to 190, and then some students in the middle, and then all the way up to 231 to 240. So you can see how that spans across. If we had a standard deviation of 8, it's not quite a range, so we could see that maybe this might be a little bit easier to teach to versus this where we have kind of a wider range. We're definitely going to want to kind of group some of these students to help our instruction. Now, what I'd like for you to do is go ahead and access the class report, and this is how you do that. You'll log in and you'll click on Map Reports, and then from there you'll click on Class Report, and then that will bring up your report. So I'd like for you to take a few minutes and go ahead and analyze your data. Okay, they would analyze, and then what we're going to do now is I'm going to actually have you guys look at your performance areas, and what I want for you to do is place the green dot on the charts that you see on the wall. I'd like for you to place the green dot to kind of identify your strongest goal area. And then I would like for you to place the red dot that would kind of identify your goal performance area that's in the most need of improvement as a class. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So everybody would do that, and then we would kind of reflect as a group. What can we learn from this histogram? What are some patterns that you see? Maybe some potential for class or school goals. And then we're going to want to use this over 3 to 5 testing sessions and keep adding these dots so we can kind of see the progression and then help us to see maybe where we might need to start collaborating or impacting instruction as a whole. All right, next we're going to look at the class breakdown report. And again, I'd like for you to access the reports portfolio, and I'd like for you to just review the sample data on pages 4 and 5. And I want for you to look at what are the main elements. You can talk to your partner about what are the main elements, what do you think the purpose of this report is, and prediction of how many blocks of 10 RIT points their class will span. So they would discuss that. So the purpose of this report is to display the teacher's class data by subject and goal area and horizontally by RIT for the current test term. So it kind of helps you to visualize it a little bit better. And then it's going to display their student status data. Okay? So for this report, we're going to just, when you get onto this report, you'll notice that it's clickable, so you can kind of drill down. So in this one, we're going to click reading. It's going to take us into reading, and you're going to see the different goal areas of reading. We have literature, informational text, and foundational skills. Okay, so again, once you're in here, you can click in, and it shows the different RIT bands, and I'm going to actually click on literature. And what that does is it brings down the continuum of learning, and it shows in those RIT bands in the area of literature some key ideas or details that I could work on with my students within those RIT bands. So if I had a student maybe that was a 198 in literature, key ideas and details, I could look in here and see some of the areas or learning statements that I kind of need them to know. Okay, for this example, we were shooting at 201 to 210, but it shows you kind of the different areas. You can go advanced, maybe kind of middle and above. All right, and then the next thing I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you go ahead and access your report, and we're going to fill out one of the frameworks together. So first I want you to identify a contact area, and we're going to write that. For my example, I'm going to use reading. We're going to focus on the standard of plot, and then we're going to identify the related goal and sub-goal in the learning continuum. So for mine, it's going to be literature, key ideas, and details. Okay, so then I have to go back to my class breakdown by goal report, and I have to identify the range of RIT scores for the goal area. Okay, and then I have to, so I notice that I have a student in 171 and all the way up to 221. Okay, so I'm going to determine the middle range in this goal area, and you can use the mean, the average, or you can kind of sometimes even look where most students fall. The grade level mean is 207.1, so I'm going to use that for my middle, and then I'm going to identify the range of scores above and below. So there's my range of scores above and below my middle. And then I'm going to go ahead and just input overall RIT range is 171 to 221. Then I'm going to list my middle score range and those students, my below score and my above. So I'd like for you to do that with your students as well. So they would do that. And then from the learning continuum, for my example for reading and literature, I'm going to go ahead and choose learning statements related to a topic standard for each range. So for example, I might use this one: describes the plot of a story, identifies the development of plot, and it analyzes events. This is based on where I'm teaching. I kind of know what I'm teaching, so I need to know, pick a statement that fits into kind of what we're working on. And then I picked one for the below and also for the above students, and then I'm going to input those on that report. So I'd like for you to do that as well. And then you're going to identify activities and strategies to target these skills, and that's based on your grade level curriculum. You're going to kind of indicate what are the instructional strategies that you're going to use. Okay, so this is just another example that could be given. For example, it shows maybe in this one they might have a mini quiz and an application. So it kind of shows some of the assessments, instructional strategies, small groups, group practice, and homework. Those are some examples. So as you're looking at this, you can see that a reflection this forms the important link between processing the new information and integrating it with the existing understanding of the world. So this is a good way for us to reflect on the data and decide how we're going to let it impact our instruction. So that's my video. Sorry, I think it was a little long, but hopefully it demonstrates my understanding of how to facilitate.